Hi and welcome back to
Inspired to Game. I'm Sean.
And I am Lola. Today we are talking about Vrahode, Age of Prophecy. This is by Weathervane Games, who we want to thank for sending us a prototype to review. Before we get to that review, we'll give you a very quick overview of how it plays. Vrahode, Age of Prophecy is a 1 to 4 player, story-driven campaign game in the style of an RPG. To begin, each adventurer will choose a character and set their beginning stats on the hero dashboard. Each hero will have differing beginning skills, racial abilities, and items. The scenarios of the campaign will be played in order, and each battle will commence with the drawing of initiative. On your turn, you'll be able to move or use an item, as well as make an attack, use a racial ability, or use a skill. Your various stats will determine your roll successes. For instance, a melee attack requires you to roll a d20 of the same or lower than your body stat. To use any of your skills, you'll have to use roll in order to do so. Over the course of the campaign, you will be gaining fatigue as well. If your fatigue raises past a certain threshold, it's going to modify all of your stats negatively. Between scenarios, you do not reset any of your conditions. In order to heal and lose fatigue and gain back your roll, you will need to rest. As you do so, you'll be drawing rest cards, which will allow you to heal, reduce your fatigue, regain roll, but there is also a possibility of an ambush. If that happens, you will have to commence with another fight. Like this, you'll progress through each of the scenarios, rolling for your attacks as well as for the monsters that are attacking you until you reach the end of the campaign. As some of you may recall, about a year and a half or 2 years or so ago, we did an interview with Jeff Irving about his epic campaign game series called Vrahode. We'll give a link to that up there if you are interested in checking it out. Now, we've been excited about this game ever since, and now we have the prototype of the first in the game series, Age of Prophecy. Now, this prototype has the first 8 scenarios, but the final game will have 24. But it gave us a really good feel for how the game plays so that we can share it with you. Now, over the course of the entire game series, you are unveiling this epic storyline that's very detailed and immersive and vibrant. Now, the artwork here is amazing. It is so beautiful. From all the cards, the artwork of the heroes, as well as the different monsters and creatures that you're going to encounter. And what's neat is there's so much innovation and creativity that has gone into creating the various creatures in this world. Is very fascinating. And in fact, the art and the diversity of this world is one of my favorite things about this game. One of the things we really enjoy here too are the hero dashboards. Now, they are so convenient. In the production copies, they are going to have lids so you can hold your progress between sessions. So on this dashboard, you have a place where you can spell out all your stats and keep that. As the game progresses, you're going to have some modified and you'll be able to record that. It has little vestibules for your rule, which are the tokens that allow you to use your skills, and it gives you a finite amount of use for your skills, so you have to be very intentional in the game in how you're using them. It tracks your fatigue as well as your movements and your skills. Everything is right there. Your cards can sit up in it so that you can see it. It's very useful, and it makes setup so quick and easy.
It's got a small footprint. It's raked towards you, so you're not looking at something flat. It's at an angle for easy viewing. Your cards slip into it for storage, and they slip right out, and they're the mini-sized cards, so they're not going to take up a lot of real estate on your side of the table either. Just convenient and in storage, convenient in play.
And that's actually a pretty unique thing with a sprawling epic campaign dungeon crawler type game. A lot of these things can take upwards of half an hour to an hour just to set up, whereas this literally takes 2 minutes
Looking
tops.
at you, ISS Vanguard.
But worth it. But still, it is a factor. There are times when you're not going to get a game to the table just because of the sheer amount of time setup is going to take, because it gets daunting and you don't have energy for it. But something that's so quick and easy to get to the table, it encourages play. It makes it easier to get to it more often because you don't have that overhead. Now, one thing you notice with these hero dashboards as well is the little markers on them look a little fiddly, because they are. They were constantly falling out, and they're just fiddly. That's all you can say about it. But the nice thing is, for the production copies, these are going to be changing to pegs that will stay in, and it will be much more streamlined and easy to use. Now, in many ways, this does play like a standard RPG dungeon crawler, but there are some unique elements here that we really enjoy. So there is the hero dashboard. Now, some things about gameplay. One thing is I really enjoy how monsters attack. So in some games, I'm looking at you, Gloomhaven, monsters will attack whoever happens to be closest, regardless. Now here, the monsters will preferably attack anybody who has successfully done a melee attack against them, then who has unsuccessfully done melee, then who's ever successfully hit them from range, and then unsuccessfully from range, and then it goes to who's ever closest. And I love how this makes sense. If there's somebody in front of them beating the snot out of him, well, he's gonna be attacking him first. It makes sense that they're gonna go for the person that's actually hitting them. I like this aspect.
And although you can use that as part of your strategy, it does follow a logical flow of combat. Somebody can hit a monster and run away, and they will chase them, but at the same time, you don't want to be just standing around. So when you hit them as he goes by, or whatever, now suddenly you are going to become the target. So it does follow a bit of logic. It's not just a matter of blood frenzy of anything moves, they're going to go after it.
Now, another unique thing here is you don't just reset all your conditions between scenarios and plays. If you have gotten really fatigued, you are still fatigued. If you are injured, you still are injured. And any roll you've used is still gone. So in order to reset these conditions, you need to rest. Just kind of like in real life. Now to rest, you have the rest deck, and you pull cards, and you can heal and do all these wonderful things, or get ambushed, which gets that extra bit of realism there too, because you are in a hostile environment and this can happen to you. So it's very unique, this element, I think, of being able to, of needing to consciously work to heal yourself in this method. It's not just naturally done in between sessions.
Now the rest phase does build in that somebody can stay awake and not get the advantage of resting, just so that if there is an ambush, you gain an advantage in that ambush. There's something else that we didn't mention is afflictions such as curses or poisons. They will follow you until you gather the element, usually a herb or something in the environment, that you would then turn into a medicine to deal with. And again, with fatigue, even when you move between maps, that act of moving through the world causes fatigue. You will never be at zero fatigue because you will rest and change maps, and that gains you fatigue. So it makes sense.
Yeah, and that fatigue is another one of those unique elements, and it's actually one of the dangers you have to be careful about in this game, because if you gain too much fatigue, all your stats are modified down, and if your stats are modified down, you're going to be less effective in your attacks, you're going to be less effective in everything, so you don't want this to happen. So you have to be very careful about growing fatigue, and you have to take care of yourself. Another thing that's really neat here is dimension. So within this prototype that we have, there are some flying monsters, and there is an elevated height marker thing, whatever you would call it, display that lets you elevate them, and it gives you a neat sense on the board of your flying things that are up higher. And if they are in flight height, then you actually can't reach them with a melee attack. You can reach them with range, but so there's some extra strategy that needs to come in there too. If you have something flying up high, you have to deal with it a little bit differently, which makes a lot of sense.
And it's really nice having that little pedestal to remind you that, oh no, this one is up above everybody's head and can't be attacked that way.
I also think it's really neat here how successes have been inversed. So in traditional RPG games, it's usually the higher the better. Here, it's the opposite. A D20 roll of 1 is a critical hit. And I think that's actually a little bit fantastic because I'm really good at rolling 1s versus 20s. And that kind of plays out to my advantage here. So it's just a little thing, but it's kind of an interesting reversal in that you want those lower numbers instead of the higher numbers.
And it really simplifies if you're trying to figure out your percentage chance to hit. It's not a modifier, it's your specific stats out of 20. So if it's a 12, you've got a 60% chance of hitting. If it's 7, you've got a 35% chance of hitting. Really simple to figure out.
And there are modifier dice here as well. There is a D6 that's rolled as a modifier, but that's after you determine whether it's a success or not. And I think another really unique thing here is just that detail of that storyline. There really is a lot to it. It's really involved. It's not just a throwaway. It's really the driving force of the game. It is this epic storyline that you get to play through.
We have only played the first 8 scenarios out of 24, but the conclusion of the campaign is mentioned, and it does lead into the next game in the campaigns.
Now, we played this at 2-player as well as at 3-player, and it seems to scale really well between the two. And we also found that generally it moves at a nice, decent clip, which is really nice. It doesn't drag.
Each scenario has a little table for how many monsters you're going to encounter at 1, 2, 3, and 4 players. So it's easily scalable.
Yeah, and sometimes it doesn't increase those monsters. It just gives those monsters extra life between, say, 2 or 3 players as well. Now, my final thoughts here. If you enjoy dungeon crawlers, epic fantasy campaign games, if you like RPGs, you may want to check out this campaign. We will have a link to it down in the description below. We have had a ton of fun working through these 8 scenarios. I love the artwork, I love the world, all the imagination that went into creating this. A lot of love and soul went into it, and you can really get a sense for it. It's vibrant and exciting to explore.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a campaign game that's quick to set up and easy to run and a lot of fun to play, this is the one for you.
Thank you so much for watching our review today.
If you've enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the channel to support us.
And as always, happy gaming, folks. Age of Prophecy by Weather Game
Veins.
Weather Game Veins. She's a character. I'm like, did I say that yet? Okay. To begin, each hero. To begin, each.
You're turning into Foghorn Leghorn. To begin, I say to begin.
To begin. What's funny about that? Because it's just continues. Maybe I shouldn't talk it. Because, it's like they knock things around. But maybe I should not include that.
Weapons of mass destruction.